Well, here we are live again. This is Toni Weel with Sara from Virtuous Unicorns from Ohio. I'm from Florida, sunny Florida again until the next rain comes in. And we have Lou Del Mar from Mexico.
Yes.
Lou is our guest today, and she has an amazing journey to share. And Lou is also has some beautiful retreats there where she lives, which I can recommend to anyone. And she is very knowledgeable in Dr. Morse. How do we call it? Teachings, Dr. Morse's teachings, and fruitarian. So she has an amazing journey to share. And I'm not going to waste any more time on further, chit chat from me. I'll let Lou do the talking. And please know that when you want to come on live and ask some questions, the link is posted on the top of the live chat, so you can come on at any time. And ask your questions or just ask your questions in the chat. Sara and I will keep an eye on that and then share it with Lou. So Lou, go ahead.
Awesome. So thank you, Toni, for inviting me. This is really exciting. And I've been on this journey a little over 5 years ago. And it's a long story, but I'll try to make it short. So it starts with me getting pregnant and then having to have an abortion because I was in so much pain. I had a fibroid, a big one, and cysts, and that was a very dark moment in my life, very painful emotionally, but also physically. And that led me to this healing journey. And I'm always thankful for that soul that incarnated briefly to teach me how to love myself again. Because it took a lot to be able to leave the lifestyle that I had before and to do this other lifestyle. So before this situation happened, I was an alcoholic since age 13. And this happened at age 38, so it was a lifetime, basically. And I was addicted to food. I had eating disorders before. And I was in a toxic, violent relationship, abusive. And I had a job that I thought was the job of my dreams, corporate world, and climbing that ladder, and I thought I was doing good. And from the outside, it seemed that I had a normal life like everyone else, just eating, drinking, and overworking myself, overstressed. But that led me to get sick. And from there, I decided that there has to be something else. And before that, I had the example of my mom. My mom was raw vegan many years before me, and she had healed osteoporosis, fibromyalgia, and polyps in the intestine, which is pre-cancer. And I thought, hey, why not give it a try? And, I have this surgery. They were going to remove the fibroid. Then they were going to remove, I also had gallbladder stones, and I also had tumors in my breast. So surgery was a thing, and I didn't want to do it because a few years back in 2007, I had surgery and they removed a teranoma, which is a type of tumor from my uterus, which was 11 centimeters, and it had different types of tissues. And I didn't want to go through that again because it was kind of like a cesarean. They had to open me up because it was that big, and I had a long period of recovery. So I was like, no, I don't want to do this. There has to be another way. I'll give it a go. I'll try the raw foods. And then I did. And besides the symptoms that I had shared with you, and just doing checkups and exams, it turned out that I also had inflammation in my pancreas. I had fatty liver. I had inflammation in my intestines. I had chronic constipation since age 2. I had recurrent urinary infections. I had candida. I had parasites. I had high triglycerides. And I had a bacteria that's called H. pylori, which affects the digestion and gives acid reflux. And I also had like a cloudy mind. I couldn't think straight. I was just, I don't know how to explain it, but yeah, my mind wasn't right. And I was depressed. I didn't take medications. Thank God. I had extreme anxiety attacks. And I think the list is long. I had thyroid issues, and I had vision issues. So I stopped wearing glasses. And it's such a long list. I'm sure like I'm missing out on something, but I don't want to bore you guys with symptoms. But when I started changing my diet, I was like, okay, I'll do it for 1 week. If this works, then I'll continue. And I'm going to be saving hundreds of thousands of dollars from these surgeries if this actually works, and I'm going to gain my health back. So I did it 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, so on, 3 months. And I kept going. And my mom was like, are you sure you're still raw? And I'm like, yeah. She could not believe it because I was the opposite. I had no discipline. I couldn't stick to a diet all my life. I had been trying. I was 90 kilos, which is around 200 pounds. Way less now. I don't know. I think I'm 60 kilos. I don't know how much that is in pounds, but that came off as a result of healing. And yeah, and then I started having healing crisis, very intense healing crisis. I had acids come out of my eyes and go blind for a moment, and then seeing like different colors, like acids or like oil coming out of my eye. And then my sight came back, and then I had 40 days of nonstop diarrhea. And that's when I had to eat a little bit cooked to slow down, and I didn't want to. And it was hard. Once I went, and it was a veggie soup, right? But once I did that, it was so hard to get back on it, and I did. And I actually worked with a detox specialist, with Tad Chetam. You probably know him. And yeah, he helped a lot with dealing with this healing crisis, understanding. He read my eyes, and that got me the introduction to Dr. Morse, because when I was doing this, I was by myself. No one around me was doing this. It was such a lonely road that I was seeking for a community. And then I came across Dan, the life regenerator. And then on one of his videos, there was a post about, hey, why don't you join fans of Dr. Morse in the group? And I did. And that's how I found Tad and this whole detox process, because at the beginning I was just doing the raw. I wasn't doing like a proper detox with herbs. And then the herbs took it to another level. And I started feeling better. But it wasn't until 1 year. I also had chronic fatigue, and my adrenals were down. So it took me 1 year to recover, almost, I would say like maybe 70%. And then at the following year, was able to train again and have strength. And sometimes we're just talking offline about, sometimes we can be so impatient. And I was so impatient. I wanted everything to happen like now. I want results. So I pushed myself so hard sometimes, and I wasn't kind to myself. And that's a lesson that I learned too, to be patient, to pace myself. It's like running a marathon. You need to make sure you have steady energy throughout the career, and not just like run very fast and then be like, oh, can't do this anymore. And that's one of the lessons, patience. And the other one is, you don't need to be perfect. And I wasn't. I made so many mistakes. I ended up eating cooked food again at one point. I had pizza, and I was crying about it. I was like, oh my God, how did I end up here? And it's been a journey, and I didn't stop. I didn't stop at all. I was like, I'll continue. I'll keep going, and I'll keep going until I get it. I get it. And I keep getting better and better, and I feel better and better. And then I had 3 this year, 1 last year and 2 this year. I had 3 root canals removed. These were causing issues. Even after I had healed and reversed many things, the thyroid issue had come back, and I didn't know why. I was like, if I'm doing everything, I'm eating right, I'm meditating, I'm exercising, I'm dealing with my emotions, and that there was still something there. And it was an infection that I had from the root canals. It's basically a dead tooth inside our mouth, and that messes everything up because it's connected with our brain. But it also, when there's an infection here, it goes to the whole body. So that's why I had recurrent infections. And then I had the thyroid issue. It affects the thyroid because it's very close to it. And until I removed that, I could really feel like closer to my goal of being fully healthy, because every time something would come up, and I'm not sure I'm there yet. And it's been over 5 years, might be, I don't know, there might be some stuff that I still need to work on or heal, because a healing journey can be a long one. That's why patience is required, but I'm doing so much better. So right now, mostly on fruit, but also mostly fasting. So I do some dry fasting, and I drink a little bit of water, and 1 meal a day, which is fruit and sometimes very little salad. But it's been progressing like that to be able to come to this place where I am at the moment. So I don't know if you have any questions. I could continue and go on.
Yes, I was going to actually say, I'm not sure if Toni had any questions or not, but yeah, please continue to go on with your journey. We'd love to hear it.
Yeah, I think I'm mostly interested how you could overcome the hurdles that were in front of you.
With faith, a lot of faith. And there was always something in me that made me believe. And sometimes I doubted myself, and I thought, oh my God, is this good? Is this working for me? Even after studying, even after all I know, I still had doubts. And it was faith that always kept me going. A voice saying, like, you're doing good, be patient, continue, just go on, and always listening to myself. So that was key, because we have the teachings of Dr. Morse, but then we also have, so many other currents of medical medium and Dr. Sebi and salt, no salt, and do more veggies, more fruit, whatever. And yeah, it was just going inside, learning how to hear my own voice. That led me saying, like, yeah, maybe not this time, or stop, okay, you're going too fast, or go on. And that was key for me. Faith was huge, because it's believing something's going to happen even though it hasn't happened yet.
How did you deal with, or did you actually experience negativity from your environment?
Oh, so much.
Yeah, how did you deal with that?
So at the beginning, I was working at a corporate company. So and they had a restaurant inside the offices, and there was very little raw vegan options, like small salads and sometimes maybe a little fruit. So I had to make all of that. But sitting on the table with co-workers at that moment was a moment of a little stress, because they were like, is that all you're going to eat? You need protein, and this came from maybe a guy that had previous heart attacks, big belly, eating greasy meat. And the way I dealt with it was no judgment. I didn't judge other people, or at least I try not to, because inside of me I was thinking like, oh my God, you know, they're eating this way, or they're doing that, and I know it's not good for them, but I learned how to only talk when people were asking, like, oh, why are you doing that? You know, and I would be like, oh, this is feeling amazing. I've healed this and that. And this is something that I learned from my mom. My mom saw me eat away my life and drink my life away. And she never judged me. Not once she criticized me. She encouraged me. And she was like, hey, here's your juices, here's your salad, here's more fruit. And she was very like happy and just like non-judgmental about it. So that was a big lesson from her. So when it was my turn, I never ever, or at least I tried my best to not judge other people. And in return, universe showed me back, yeah, people might judge you, but it's okay, you know. And I didn't take it personal. And I decided that my actions would speak louder than my words. So they would see me, you know, be disciplined, doing the fasting, the fruit, and the salads. And they were inspired because they saw me in like the transformation happened before their eyes. Month by month, they saw me getting better and better and better and better and better. And they were like, okay, maybe what she's doing is actually working. And they started asking about it. And then only when they asked, I would say it. And I would be like, okay, so this is what I'm doing. And then they were like, oh my God, I could never do that. I love my coffee, I love my bread, I love my meat, and I love my whatever. But they respected it. They respected me. And some of them actually detoxed with me too. And with my circle of friends, it was a little different. I had party friends that were there, you know, when I was a party girl, I was drinking and having feasts with food, and all of a sudden they disappeared. And I felt lonely, and I was very lonely, and that pushed me to go inside. So I had what is called the dark night of the soul, facing my own demons. And after that, that's when I was feeling like that. I was like, there has to be other people like me out there. I'll find them one by one. And I also reached out at that moment at a colleague, and she was just newly graduated from a detox specialist, Maria. And I said, we need to create a community for Latin America, because there are a lot of people in Latin America that need this. There's a big community in the US, but I haven't found, and I've looked, there's nothing in Latin America. We need to make it happen. So we got together with her, we created a group, and we started gathering the troops. And then that group kind of was left out of the picture, and then I created another one. But that's my purpose. My purpose was to create a community. I didn't have a community. I felt alone. I was like, okay, if there's nothing, I'll create it. I'll take on that task. I'll translate information from Dr. Morse. I'll make videos, I'll make materials, and give it all away for free. And I've done that for all of these years. And now there are a lot of people that have access to Dr. Morse in Spanish because of that. So something that could have been like detrimental to my process, I took it and I transformed it in this purpose for building communities.
It is important to have a purpose. I think that is whoever came from an pretty severe illness, the high acidosis. We cannot even call it illnesses. We were just very acidic.
Yeah.
And sorry. And once you see how it works, you want to share it. But you need the people to listen. So it was always my thing is like, I am not gonna market myself, with the knowledge that I have. I let people come to me. And it took a few years, but that is exactly what's happening. And then you find actually the people come to you who are open to changes. And for you to set up in a Spanish community where they can find the information that they need is very significant, very important. And even here in the United States, there are a lot of people who barely speak any English and would be interested.
Yeah.
So you talk about communities, and that is where the Garden of Eden .social came from that I showed you
I love it.
Earlier. And
Yeah.
it's like, it is in its beginning phase because it can be way more. It can have the courses, the memberships, and whatever we want to share there. And even where you can add your own courses and set a price or do it free or set a price for certain things. So that is all possible. Right now, it is the basics, and the more the platform grows, the more that can be added to it.
Yeah.
My idea was that if you want to change the world, you have to start with yourself.
Yeah.
You make the changes, and then it has a ripple effect. And when you see the possibilities that this platform has, when you type in your name and your location, doesn't even have to be a full address, just the city, to stay on the safe side. I wouldn't put in my full address either. But you put in a city, and then you can look on a map and pinpoint, and you can see who is in your area, and you can set up not only like a virtual community, but local communities where you can build up on more. You could buy a piece of land together and start your fruit farm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is all possible. I have set up another platform that is now 2 or 3 years ago now, probably 3 years ago. And there were more than 8,000 people in there. And
Wow.
when I looked at at my own location, I was like, oh my God, there are more than 30 people within 30 miles of me who were on that platform already, like-minded people. So, it can happen, but it is something that we have to do the little work, all of us. It's not just me. It's not
Yeah.
something that I can build on my own. It's like the members come in and they share and they share their information. I set up a lot of groups. I don't know if you've seen the groups yet, but
I need to explore the website a little more.
Yeah, and Sarah, living on a farm, and is very interested in permaculture, and there is a group that is specifically for that. So that is how you can find all the information that we need to make it all a better world. And forget about all the politics, and you probably have to deal with that. There's no way around it, but we all know how corrupt everything is. Doesn't matter where in the world you are. I mean, I'm from the Netherlands. It's just as bad as anywhere else. And so I'll leave that out. It's like I have a Garden of Eden .social group on Facebook too. And it's like, no, we don't need about all the misery in the world. We need to look forward, and we need to build upon, we have our experiences, we know where we were, we're growing, we're changing, we're learning, and now we're sharing. And that is the goal of the Garden of Eden .social. And you fit in there nicely and share. And the site can even, I haven't bought that software yet, but the site could be in any language.
Wow.
So there are a lot of possibilities, but it needs to grow a little first, because so far it's just costing money. But now, when what made you start actually with all of this? Because you must have felt like a point. It's like, I cannot move forward with my life as it is. I have to make changes. So what was it that for you that was the I'll call it a breaking point?
Yeah. So my breaking point was actually having lost that baby and just finding out after, you know, because I didn't like doctors, but I didn't like taking care of myself either. I wasn't doing neither one. And I, through that, if that hadn't happened, I maybe I might have been dead by now, or I might have developed cancer, which I thought I had at one point. And that was like a very low point in my life, where I was like, okay, this is it. I mean, I hit rock bottom with my health, with my life, with everything. And that's when I decided to make a change. And I remember the inspiration from my mom that led me to this path. So that was a breaking point for me.
And did you go through, you mentioned before, medical medium, Dr. Sebi, was that what you were following until you came to Dr. Morse, or was it all at the
Yeah,
same time?
I started out with a doctor in Peru. His name is Casanova Lenti. He follows a similar diet. Well, he used to, because he's dead. And he passed away a couple of years ago at 99 years old. I used to follow at the beginning a Hippocratic diet, which is more veggies than fruit. So I did more veggies than fruit, which was good. It was kind of like a transition. And then I started doing more fruit.
Did you ever follow like medical medium or Dr. Sebi?
Not like to the T. I was just taking ideas. For example, I tried the celery juice, and then from Dr. Sebi, I still do the Irish sea moss. Well, I was doing, I'm not doing it right now, but so I think like taking what works, you know, from different people adds on. And I've also found some things that are against Dr. Morse's teachings. And those are the ones that I'm like, I still want to learn, because people, you know, my clients might come to me and talk about it as well. Like the blood type diet, for example. Someone mentioned it, I was like, okay, I'll read that book. And I was like, this is nonsense. But still, I learned about it so I could talk to someone when they come to me about it.
Yeah, there are so many things. When I started working on my health, I think I've been doing that my whole life, because I wasn't born healthy. I always had digestive problems and constipation, even as a newborn, and the ear infections and on and on and on. But I consider myself healthy throughout my adult life.
Oh, yeah.
Until you get this you go to I went to an holistic doctor, and she asked me to write down everything, and I started writing things down and remembering things, and I was like, oh my God. I've been sick my whole life. But
Yeah.
then it's like, but nothing changed. I was prescribed a ton of supplements, but nothing changed. Then, you know, I went from a beautiful man, Dr. Bergman, very active on YouTube, chiropractor, nice man. Then I came to Dr. Berg, not so nice man, but he had great, and I had personal experience, but he had great explanations, and I thought, this is it. Now I understand it. And then I came to a medical medium, which I followed religiously for 18 months, and I got sicker and sicker and sicker. And you get to a point, it's like, what is left? How can I move on? What am I going to do now? I felt kind of embarrassed to tell people that I was not healing, not even when I followed everything to a T, had all the books, shared all the books, and it was just not working for me. And all of a sudden, there's Dr. Morse. I mean, yeah, he could have been there, you know, right at my journey, because he's been at it for many, many years.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't. Until I had pretty much tried everything that wasn't working, and there he was. And now I realized it was actually a good thing, because like you and many others, you know, I had to go through all this to figure it out. But I wasn't thinking that, you know, being a fruitarian would be the way to live. I was kind of, laughing about it when I heard about a couple who was traveling the world and eating only, a young couple, and they were eating only fruit, wherever the fruit was in season and they could get it ripe. And I thought, oh, interesting. And it kind of stuck in my mind, but didn't take it really serious. And that was the way to go. And this is probably 8 years ago. I don't know. I don't remember exactly. But and then there's Dr. Morse and me asking, like, I'm doing everything right. I'm 100% raw and raw vegan, and what am I doing wrong? And when I mentioned what I was eating, that included making crackers from nuts and seeds, and putting nut butter on it and avocado. And he was like, well, stop that. Stop the nuts and the seeds and the high fats and the high proteins. And that is where the change started for me. But I still didn't, I had never heard of being a fruitarian. That even came in later, of being a fruit,
Yeah.
that you
Yeah,
are
it took me a
actually a
while to get there.
frugivore. Yeah, so it is like now, and I've mentioned this quite often here, but I'm so excited about my mango tree. And last year it had 5 or 6 fruits. Now it had, I think my husband counted them. They're 13. They're not ripe yet. Big ones, and they're very juicy and very sweet. At least they were last year, so I expect the same thing now. But then that you then find that I could pick them now and I could leave them on the counter and let them ripen, but of course you don't, because you want to eat them ripen off the tree, because that is the most nourishment that you can get.
Yeah.
But then I find that when I put my hand under the fruit, and the first time I experienced that was actually with figs. I had a fig tree, and it gave me 1 fig every day. And if you see them and they were kind of green still, you could pull them off, but they were not really good. But then they started coloring, and you put your hand under it and it falls in a hand, and it's like, oh, okay. But now I know that is the moment that fruit is meant for you. You don't pull it off or cut it off. It is when it falls in your hand, now it's yours. But if I would wait 1 or 2 days, then the critters get it. It burst open, and it's not mine anymore. The birds come in, and whatever other little animals, they take over, or it falls on the ground, and then it's not mine either. So those few days, it is really meant for us. And to realize that, I thought that was so amazing. And that were all the signs is like, this is the food that is actually meant for us. We don't need to salt it. We don't need to fry it, cook it, steam it, whatever. We can eat it as is. And my husband asked me, because he's a truck driver, and he takes food for 5 days with him, and it's fruit, smoothies, salads, and it works. And he is like, well, is it really meant for us? Because if I eat a mango, I have to wash my hands, and well, like, come on. That was just funny. But it's and that made the big difference, to really realize how it all works, to really get back to that nature, how it is meant to be. But when you don't know anything about this, it is, and you have to learn all that. That's not easy to really figure out, this is the way that we need to go. But I saw I was in severe pain, I couldn't sleep. Because of the pain, my fingers were already deforming, knees, elbows, all the joints, because of the arthritis. And the first thing that I noticed within 2 weeks was the pain was gone. It was just gone. And then slowly but surely the brain fog. And I started studying for the level 1, level 2 in iridology when I was so filled with lymph in my head, and lymph stagnation, and having the brain fog, and I could barely make it. And I was so determined that it worked. And I think it was that determination that that keeps you going. But I feel that the importance of understanding what it does in our body, how it works, what other foods do. And sometimes people get upset when they want to eat something and now they get cramps. And it's like, oh my God, what have I done to my body? And that was the fruit. No, that was not the fruit. That was your body telling you it doesn't want this old food anymore, the food that you
Yeah.
used to eat. But getting to that point to really see what, what is actually meant for you, and that you cannot go back to your old ways of eating, because then you go back to your old ways of suffering, your previous suffering. And this is what Dr. Moore said, because you mentioned it when people say like, oh, but I cannot do that. I need my coffee. Well, why do you need your coffee? And, it's like, well, to get through the day. Well, start with a big glass of orange juice. I do say that when people are saying that. But it is, it is sad that so many people really believe that they cannot do without a certain food. And, from Dr. Morse, we learned it is such a simple way of living. It is the most simple. Can you say that? The most simple way? Is that a good English still? But it's the hardest thing you do in your life.
Yeah.
The unlearning, the addictions, because you mentioned, as in having a food addiction. And I never saw myself as having a food addiction. And then why the heck is it that once in a while I do want that pizza? It's like, and remembering certain foods. And when you are on 100% fruit, you don't have the cravings, really. You don't think of meals as in, oh, what am I going to eat for breakfast or lunch or dinner? There is your fruit, and you grab it when you need it.
Yeah. That's very interesting, Toni. And that takes me to the other point that I wanted to share, which is the reprogramming. The level of conditioning we have as human beings and as this human society is just crazy. We've been made to believe that processed foods are okay. I've seen mothers feed their babies Coca-Cola and fries, and and this seems normal. And for me, when I was eating these types of food, I thought it was normal because everyone else was doing it. So this is like a crazy, like madness everywhere, and everyone is in it. So once you step out of that, people see you as the crazy one. And it's such a mind trip. For me, it was just like my mind opened up, and I was like, just the lies and the illusion that I had before my eyes started crumbling down, and the truth started to show up and appear. And that's why the coaching, I'm also an ontological coach. So I work a lot with reprogramming the mind, because it's like having a phone, right? When you have a phone and it has a lot of applications, and some of those applications are running in the background and you don't see them, but they're taking information from you and they're putting information in your phone. And sometimes you have applications that you don't need anymore, but they're taking up space. What do? Uninstall, 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 and then you install new applications. So that's what I did with myself. And that's what I do with people that I guide too, which is starting identifying those limiting beliefs and then saying no. And not just leave it at that, leaving that empty space, but I replace it with something that does work for my greatest good, that serves my health and my purpose. And it's simple, but it's hard work sometimes, yes. But once there's different levels of consciousness. So when it's in the top layer of consciousness, that is wrong for you, but you keep doing it. And I would say I knew some things were not good for me, and I just couldn't get over it. And bread was one of them. That's why I always like to tell people, like, doesn't matter. You don't need to be perfect. The time will arrive for sure. And eventually you will get rid of that. So when you're at that level of consciousness that that is not good for you, but you're still doing it, there's a lack of coherence inside. There's a part of you that still believes that that's good for you, even though in here you know that it's not. So when you really reach that level of consciousness, then there's no going back. So it has to be through layers, right? Or at least for me, it was like that. I went through layers of layers and layers. And in the deeper layers, what's behind those programs is trauma. We've been programmed through trauma. And that's something, it can take a long time to explain the whole thing, but to keep it simple, we've associated certain foods to love, to rewards, which is a big mistake. So not to reward with food, food is not a reward. Food is a right for every human. It's not something that we need to work to deserve it. We all deserve food. And also just acceptance, belonging. There's something wired in our brain, in our reptilian brain, that's a way of preserving humanity. That is that we need to move in groups, like a pack of wolves. If one is left behind, that one left behind might die. So we always want to belong. We have this idea of belonging. But if we want to belong to a society that is sick and dying, does that actually make sense? But we still want to belong there. And that's why when we're in social interactions or family, that can be our weakest moments, when we're like, I eating, or I ate this thing again. But once we identify that and we allow ourselves to remove from that and tell ourselves, it's okay, I'm going to be okay, even though I'm going against my family, my friends, society, and I'm okay with that. Then something happens. It's like, okay, I'm going to be alive. I'm not going to die. The preservation instinct, survival is like, okay, I'm okay. And it's just layers of programs that we have going deeper and deeper and deeper. And right now I'm at a point where my mind is being like open again, because I'm not needing as much food as I used to, because it's been many years now. So with very little food that I have, that is enough. So I'm really honoring my body. And this has happened recently, where I said to myself, even with fruit, I'm just going to eat when I'm really hungry. Not like when I'm like, just eating out of boredom or whatever, but being very, very honest with myself. And I found that maybe I was hungry 2 times a week. I was like, is that actually possible? Have I been emotionally eating fruit all this time? So I started paying attention and just really eating only when I have physical hunger. And that actually happens very rarely. So it's just mind blowing again. And I'm in good health, and my weight is stable, and I have very high energy. So I don't know where this stops, but it's programs. And I'm sure I have layers and layers of programs that I still have to reprogram for myself.
It was funny when you compared it to the programming to a computer. The first thought that came up when you said, there are some programs that you don't need anymore, and you can delete and delete and delete. And I was like, yeah, and what are we going to do when that sneaky virus comes in once in a while?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because that happens. And yeah.
And I was going to share also, it has taken me to make very deep and profound life changes. So I left my corporate job a few years ago, and that was scary because I was this regional manager for Latin America, and I had a penthouse, and I had all this life that I thought was what I wanted And I was going to leave all of that to pursue my dream of helping people, coaching people. And I actually started doing that because people were asking me. I never thought of it until people started asking me, like, can you help me? Can you help me? I was like, whoa, well, okay. I'm going to prepare. I'm going to study for this. And I did. And I continue studying, and I run investigations all the time. And I translate from other languages into Spanish. So I love research. I'm like a nerd that way. And that also helps with the reprogramming, right? Once you learn and you learn more and more and more, you're like, wow, there's so much there are so many articles and things that we can find when we're looking for it. And so going back to what I wanted to share with you is exiting the matrix. So at one point in my life, I was like, I don't want to be part of this. I don't want to be part of this job, this company. It's a well-known company, and the shareholders of this company had participated in 2008 from the financial crisis worldwide. So I was like, I didn't like what I was seeing and understanding. I was like, I'm actually part of this. I was in human resources, and I was helping people, but I was still like a small piece of this puzzle that didn't add up. I didn't want to be part of that. And I left it, and I left my comfortable apartment and city life to move out to the country where I live now, out in nature, where there's clean air, clean water, spring water, actually, where there's lots of fruits. Fruits here where I moved in Mexico, Malinalco, are just amazing, divine. Like every time I travel, I'm like, I can't wait to go back home so I can eat delicious fruit. So it took so much, and it was layers, as I was saying, but it also took actions to remove myself from that, where I felt I didn't belong anymore. And I'm so sensitive. Like I can feel people's energies, emotions. I can see things that are not of this world too. And being in a big city was overwhelming, was too much for me. So I like living in a little bit of isolation. So I need my community for moments. And then I'm like, okay, I need my alone time. And I live right now with my partner. He's also raw vegan. He's a chef. He's more into the gourmet food, helping people transition. But yeah, it has been a huge change, and that's one of them. The other one is, even the clothing, like natural fabrics. Stop wearing makeup. Stop dyeing my hair. Stop putting chemicals in my skin, on my skin, and it's so many things. It's like peeling away layers of what is not real, until there is this that is me. And I'm sure there are still things that I need to let go of.
Now, looking at your beautiful hair, did you have a time that your hair was falling out?
Yeah, I was going bald. So when I was detoxing, and this usually happens to people. So if some of you are listening to this and they're like, yeah, I'm losing my hair, don't worry, it does come back. So when I started detoxing, I started losing my hair, and I also had hypothyroidism, which is part of it, and parathyroid issues. So it took me about a year, no, actually 2 years, for my hair to start going a little stronger and stronger. So what I did is I cut it very short. I got a haircut, actually. It was very short, like boys' hair. And I wanted all the chemicals out of my hair. I was like, I don't want anything that is not the real me out. And then from there, it started growing better and better and better and better until it's long and thick and healthy right now. And people always ask me about my hair. They're like, what have you done? Like, how do you get your hair to be like that? And it's like, it's the fruit. It's cleaning the body. And my hair actually got lighter. And I don't dye my hair. It's just lighter naturally. My eyes went lighter. They used to be dark brown, and they're light brown right now. So just it's amazing how things change when you're eating that's the diet that we're supposed to be eating. Everything goes back into place.
Yeah, because with the hair, I'm 71 and my hair is not gray. And
Wow.
maybe it is because I'm always saying I'm forever 38. I don't know. But
Yeah.
it's my eyebrows that got white. And when the first time I was like 7 months on all fruits, my eyebrows had the normal color again of brown. But when I am not consistent on all fruits, then I lose the color in my eyebrows again.
Yeah.
It's really strange. I do have a little gray on the or whitish on the side, but the hair is still. I'm a redhead. It's still kind of a dark brown or no light brown, is it?
Mhm.
So but I did lose a lot. I lost a lot of hair. I probably lost about 2/3 of my hair. And I
Wow.
always had it long, at least so as long as you have it now. So last year I did cut it shoulder length. And I was like, it is what it is. I'm not going to worry about it. And because I lived with a very, very acidic body, and it takes time, and
Yeah.
probably would take less time if I'm more consistent. But I'm not perfect by any means. So,
Yeah.
we do our best in find a balance in what we need to do. But the hair part, I mean, that was. I'm not a vain person, but losing my hair was beautiful red wavy hair, and I was proud of it. And then losing it, it was like, oh no, do I need to wear a wig? And then you get to a point, it is what it is. I'm not going to worry about it.
Yeah.
And
It's
it will
humbling.
be okay. But the weird thing
Yeah.
is, my mother, my sister, my daughter, they were gray before they were 30 years.
Wow.
So, and Dr. Morse talks about that too, and about men losing their hair, that it is stagnated lymph in the head. And and I see it with my husband. I mean, his hair he barely has any hair on top, although he has been now 7 years, mostly raw and have very high fruit. But the hair hasn't come back yet on his scalp.
Yeah. And I also had the gray hair, and it came back actually when I had that thyroid issue again. And there was one point during these years that I went back to eating dairy and eggs in a moment of confusion where I was getting sick again. My thyroid was acting up, and it was because of the root canals. And I thought, maybe I need this. And I fell for it for a couple of months, or maybe 3 months, and it didn't do me good. It wasn't good. It actually messed up my hormones more. And I take it as a learning experience, and my hair went gray again, like a little bit here, and now it's getting black again. I actually have long hairs where you see it's like white, and then the other part is black. Like the black, the white hair is turning into black or dark brown again. But yeah, it's affected when I'm stressed. I notice it. More gray hair shows up, and when I'm calm, when I'm eating right, it goes away. So yeah, I still have some gray hair.
Yeah, what would you do if you are stressed? What would be your first thing to do?
Ooh, that takes me, very good question, Toni. That takes me to the next topic, which is emotions. And that is huge. I always tell people that I coach, yeah, you think that, the physical part and what you eat and you don't eat is the hard part. It's the mindset, and it's the emotions. Being under pressure, stressed, angry, frustrated, sad can lead to emotional eating, which is what I was doing before I changed my lifestyle. And then even after years, it would still come up. I would have a bad day at work, stress, and I would be like, oh, I need comfort food, I need something. So dealing with those emotions was always a thing for me. And what I do now, at the moment, I write. So I have a journal and I write about how I feel. And when there are things that are overwhelming and it feels horrible, like one of those terrible days that I think, oh my God, this is the end of the world, things are going down this spiral and my mind is going to dark places again, I just write. And once I finish writing, I burn that paper and I'm like, this is out of me. I don't want it. And that gives me a lot of relief. Also, taking a shower with intention. So I go in the shower and I visualize how this light is bathing my body and taking everything that is hurting, the pain and the motion that had taken over me goes away. And I also do breath work. So in the morning, I wake up and I do sun gazing and breath work, feeding off the sun, feeding off prana. And that also helps balance the emotions. And then I follow that with meditation. I meditate, depending on the day, many hours a day, to keep the focus and the calm. And right now I can tell you that I'm more peaceful. I'm the most peaceful I've ever been in my whole life, because I removed the 3 root canals that I had. Before I did that, I had moments of peace because I was so disciplined at it. But in between those moments of peace, I was like, high anxiety, because these root canals were affecting my nervous system. And I also had to heal my adrenals. And so emotions are actually related to hormones, dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin. These are the happy hormones. And then we have adrenaline, cortisol, and these are the acidifying, these acidifiers. So we choose with our actions and the emotions they produce what we want to do. We want to alkalize our body with positive emotions, or we want to acidify our body with these negative emotions. Sometimes we're not aware of it and we're just like a puppet of our emotions, and our emotions are driving us places where we don't want to go. So it's kind of like taking back our power and saying, no, I choose emotions. And I allow myself to feel, because that's the other thing. Like when we escape with food, sex, drugs, work, social media, being on my phone all the time. I've done that one. We're escaping our emotions because it hurts and we don't want to feel them. But you know what? When you give yourself a chance to feel those emotions, then you acknowledge them, and those emotions bring a message. And once that message is delivered, like for example, I feel angry. I'm like, I can't even stand myself. Where is that anger coming from? And I stay with that emotion. I close my eyes. I breathe first to go back to being calm. And then I allow myself to just be there, feeling what it is. And then the message comes and says, there's something that has been unfair. This shouldn't be happening. You need to set healthy boundaries. So once that emotion delivers that message and I listen, when that happens to me and I listen to it and I'm like, oh, okay, then it goes away. And I'm like, oh, I'm feeling better now. And then I take action. I do something with that, because if I don't action that message that has been delivered, okay, setting healthy boundaries, I go and do that. And then I don't need to repeat that lesson anymore. Anger might come back again. Yeah, for sure, it will. It always does, all the emotions, but in a different way. It's a new lesson. And when we feel that we're stuck with an emotion, it's like over and over and over again, it's because we're not paying attention. We're not listening to that message that emotion is delivering. We're not acknowledging it. and it will come back until we do. So managing those emotions has been a big thing for me, and I have many tools, but there are ones that I keep close to my heart that I've shared with you, which is the free writing, right? Writing and burning it, then the shower, and then the meditation and the breath work. All of those are for me like the top ones that have worked wonders. And even then, after I've tried all of these, even then, sometimes when it's something big, like trauma, like deep rooted trauma, it might take days or weeks or months. And sometimes I release a little bit of those emotions and the trauma little by little. And then after a few months, I realize like, okay, now it's completed and it's done. So that requires also patience. And that requires me being very compassionate with myself, because I screw up sometimes and that's okay. So
Yeah, because a lot of people, they kind of live in the fight or flight mode consistently.
yeah.
And when you do not have the time to address it the way that you are doing it, and you still are in a work environment and things come up,
Yeah.
and it is sometimes hard to, I always think like, okay, breathing is something that you can do wherever you are in whenever.
Yeah.
That would be my first goal. And but I find that I don't get upset, I don't I respond, I don't react.
Mm-hmm.
So things have changed, and that was when I started on the all fruit. It seems that things are easier. They are the stress is easier to deal with, whatever comes at you. I think we lost okay, there you are. We lost you on the computer or on the phone, because I know you were on both. Sara, do you have anything to ask or add to it?
I think it was a beautiful story. I loved hearing your whole entire journey. I definitely share a lot of stuff as you do too, with being in the corporate America and the pressures that come from that, and also the pressures of going on this journey publicly like that around your coworkers and stuff, people that definitely don't have an understanding of all what we do. But yeah, I think it's an amazing journey, and I think you're doing a fantastic job at leading by example, and it's beautiful, and I cannot wait to hear more of what you go through and how much more you change and how you touch everyone and help everyone along the way.
Yeah, we lost Lou. There's no connection with her right now.
Yeah.
For anyone listening, I put all her links at the bottom of the description or the show notes to Facebook, Instagram, her website, her retreat, because she is doing an amazing retreat. I will be adding that to the events on gardenofeden.social. And the .social is in place of the .com. I see a lot of people still add .com to it, but it's just gardenofeden.social. And yeah, Lou is pretty amazing. She's also a moderator in the Dr. Morse fans group, or fans of Dr. Morse ND group. And she is coming back on. She is back on. Okay.
Yeah. Sorry
There you
about that.
are,
My Wi-Fi went down.
Yeah, it happens. So you're back. We were just talking about the links that I put at the bottom of the show notes, and the ones that you sent me. I think I put them all in.
Yeah.
The Spanish ones, Instagram, Facebook, your retreat, your website. Now tell me more about your retreat. How does that work? How often are you doing that? How many days is it?
Yeah. So we have a small retreat center here in Mexico, in Malinalco, which is fruit paradise. And that's one of the things that people love when they come here. It's like, oh my God, the quality of fruits. They're organic, watered with spring water. So it's top quality, and it makes it just easier. You're enjoying the sun. in nature and eating delicious fruits. And we have a beautiful place here in Malinalco, which is 2 hours away from Mexico City. And we have people come over from all over the world. And we actually have someone that's staying here with us for a couple of weeks. So we do personalized retreats, which means that if someone wants to come and detox for 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, five weeks, or whatever amount of time, we can accommodate that. We have beautiful rooms in this house, in the surrounded by nature, and we do different protocols, right? Like if someone is coming from a very processed diet, we cannot jump straight ahead to the fruit, but we do transition, and then we go into the fruits and the juices and the herbs. I'm also an herbalist. I added that after I found out, about the herbs, and they're kind of hard to get the herbs from the US to Mexico. So I was like, okay, I'll make it happen. So I make the herbs. They're organic and they're powerful and they're very good. And we have them here in Mexico. And so yeah, the protocols are different for people, and some people just need that. They need to get away from their environment, temptations, and go into a peaceful place where they can detox. And detoxing with delicious fruits is ideal. It makes it just so much easier. And it being in a warm weather, where I live, it's subtropical, so it's always sunny and there's sunshine every day of the year, even in winter. And it rains a little bit in the afternoon or night sometimes. But yeah, and then those are the personalized retreats. And then we also have big retreats that we do from time to time in cooperation with other people. And these I post on my website, which is www.oasiswellnessdetox.com. So go there and check it out. You're going to see a few pictures of previous retreats that we've done here in Mexico.
Yeah, as soon as I can, I want to drive over where you are. I'm going to stay with you for a week.
Oh, come over. You'll love it.
I don't want to fly. If it was only for the good fruit.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, but it would be, there was at some point, you could take a boat from Tampa to Mexico. And
Really?
you could take your own car with it, but I think they stopped that like 5-6 years ago already. But the website is still there, but no more boat trips, because I thought that would be ideal,
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but no, not anymore.
But road trip.
Yeah, it would be a long road trip. I think we have to go all the way to Texas and then down south.
Yeah, I have a friend that did that, but she did it through California. She drove through Tijuana all the way down, and yeah, and she's done that.
But I'm on the other side of the.
Exactly.
Yeah,
it's extra.
Yeah, I have a 40-year-old motorhome that we're fixing up. So who knows? Maybe someday.
Yeah.
When the world is a little safer than it is now.
Yeah, but down in Florida, you get pretty good fruit too.
Well, this is actually interesting because not in the stores and barely on the farmers markets. So you really have to find out where are the farms, and I keep finding new ones. They are most of them are about 2 hours away from where I am at. I'm in the middle of Florida. About 2 hours from either coast, and yeah, you could grow anything here. I mean, papaya, pineapple, mangoes, dates, figs, anything grows here. I have what is it? These cactus plants.
Pitahaya?
Yes, pitaya. And everything grows well. but sometimes you have a very dry winter, and if you're not watering your plants every day, then they don't bear any fruit. My bananas have no fruit. My pitaya this year had no fruit. Last year I had quite a few. I have a huge cactus growing. They grow here like weeds, and they have fruits, but they're not that tasty.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's you could grow it there, but the water is absolutely horrible. So we have a whole house filter, and that's what we actually use to water the plants too. Because if it's for a whole house, then whatever water that comes in and goes out is all filtered. So even when we water the plants, but now we're in the rainy season, and they get their rainwater.
Good. That's the best one.
Yeah, well, we are, if there are no questions, we are on the at 1:11 right now. So then I would close it up. If there are still questions coming in later, I will share them with you, Lou. And
Yeah.
I want to talk to you about a few things soon, because I had some ideas.
Yeah, let's talk. Love it. Alright.
Yeah, it's always when we talk to people, it's like, oh my gosh, this could work, that could work, we can do this, and it's like, yeah.
That's part of building communities,
Yeah.
just like doing these networks and
Yeah,
corporations. Yeah.
absolutely. So I thank you so much for being here and sharing your stories, and yeah, much love to you and to everyone listening here.
Yes, and thank you so much for sharing your story. We greatly enjoyed it, and the comments in the chat also, everyone was really enjoying your story, and you were definitely an inspiration for a lot of people. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye, guys.
Bye-bye. Thank you all, and thanks for being here. Love to everyone. Bye.